If the dull, damp UK weather in the UK is giving your seasonal affective disorder a run for its money, or if you're further afield and Punxsutawney Phil's recent protestations of 6 more weeks of winter did not warm the cockles of your heart, spare a thought for Rob Mills. When we caught up a few days ago, Rob was in Saigon, where the clouds meant an afternoon of only 33 degrees. But the former Diamond Head guitarist does not have time to sip pina coladas, as he's busy with his language and music school in Vietnam and working as an online guitar coach at the Troy Stetina Music Academy. Rob Mills, Showboy Toy, welcome to Metal Talk.
Thanks, Steve. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Cool,
And yeah,
cool.
it's beautiful here in Vietnam.
Nice, nice. How has Saigon been treating you? Are there plenty over there into British heavy metal?
Well, there's a few, yeah, and there are some. There's one or two sort of rock clubs in District One, but it's definitely District One is a proper sort of tourist hub where like a lot of people go. But there's much more to Saigon than that. But yeah, there's a few, yeah, but sort of like not as many as other parts of the world.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. So, when did you first pick up the guitar and who inspired you?
So yeah, well, 36 years ago now, I was what do they say? Aging myself here, but yeah, I started at 14 years old and just like watching Heavy Metal Heaven with Elvira, the Queen of Darkness, late night, 1 a.m., whatever it was, and
Yeah.
Guns N' Roses at the Ritz came on, and they were just coming to prominence, and Appetite was it just came out, and just saw Slash doing all those riffs like Sweet Child of Mine and all that stuff, and I was just like, dude, I want to be that dude, yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. And you got to play with Diamond Head. It's their 50th anniversary this year. You played on the All Will Be Revealed album and the live DVD, The Devil His Due. How was your time with Diamond Head?
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was fantastic. I mean, I was so after like learning to play guitar to a certain standard, going through music college and whatnot, and being in bands, trying to get a record deal and this and that during the 90s. So then I got a call from Ray Loverock, who was one of the guys I was in a band with, and he at the time was in a band with the guy called Floyd, who was Diamond Head's then current guitarist, and he couldn't make a show, and he just sort of like he couldn't, and the show was Wacken. It turns out that it
Mm.
was Wacken that they were going to play Wacken, and he just basically they had a record deal, record showcase thing on the same day as Wacken, and so he had to pull out, and they were just well, who can fill in at a moment's notice, who's a fast learner, and Ray just said, well, give Millsy a call. He's a fast learner, and had 10 songs to learn in 10 days. Some of them were Tigers of Pantan song because Jess Cox was guest, vocaling on that particular show. And yeah, half and half songs between Diamond Head and Tigers of Pantan. And I learned the songs, did a good show, and yeah. So, but like the actual time with Diamond Head, we did a tour supporting Megadeth. We
Hmm.
did Wacken, did Sweden Rock Festival. A few of the shows across like Greece and Italy and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a great time. And then unfortunately I quit the band just because I was going through some personal stuff and that. In 2006 I think it was, and I just sort of like quit the band. And then they toured the States a couple of times, which I was gutted about not being
Yeah,
part of. But yeah, it is what it is.
yeah.
But I had some great fun when I was in the band, and yeah, it was great to play with obviously a legendary Brian and well, the rest of the guys really. They're all great musicians, and there was Nick Tart on vocals as well that came in after we did Wacken. So yeah, it was a great time all in all, and playing on the album and the live DVD was fantastic as well.
Cool, cool, cool. I think Wacken was 2003. Is
Yeah.
playing Wacken as fun as it looks?
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, you got to remember is that I went from playing pubs to like 100, maybe 100 people. If you're lucky in Birmingham and stuff like that, being in these bands, trying to get a record deal, still having some fun, but ultimately anything came of it, and doing that, and then The next, you sort of like thrust onto the biggest stage in the morning in front of like, 50, 60, 70, whatever it was, thousand. But it was great. Yeah, I really just like, I think I'd got to that point in my playing and my, whatever you need to have to stand up there, where I was comfortable with it, and I just took it all in my stride, seemingly. And I think that's why when after we did the show, and maybe about a week later, Brian called me up and said, "Well, do you want to be in the band?" So obviously, I must have done a fairly decent job to get that. And they just said, "Well, the other guys let us down, and I guess we like what you did." I can't remember exactly what we said, but the job's yours if you want it. So yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. And after that, I mean, you've been teaching for over 20 years. You've got a Bachelor of Arts in Music. What helped you, or what gave you, inspired you, yeah, to help others?
Well, it's not actually. I've got a diploma in music, but yeah. So, what inspired me? I mean, it's just I always like from the start, really. Even after like a year or two of learning myself, I was really into it and just into the whole essence of what it is to become a great guitarist.
Hmm.
Really sort of like just chowing down all the information that I could, all the obviously there wasn't internet back then, but the magazines and the books and everything, and having sort of private lessons. And it just was like it became this thing because I was getting pretty good at it. It's getting the adulation of your friends and all that kind of thing. And then you're like, wow, because I guess like it's the same old story, but I felt like maybe a kid that didn't quite fit in and all that kind of thing. But then when you start being good at something and you start winning over friends or whatever, or just like being admired for something, you think, well, I'm good at this, and then you go, right, let's see how far we can take it. And then so yeah, to give that sort of vibe and that feeling to somebody else, even if they're not like that, they just obviously want to learn and just become, it's fulfilling, I guess you could say. And yeah, you try to you remember the journey that you went on, and you hope to help somebody along the
Hmm.
same, where they get inspired, and you try to maybe say to the kids, this, do you want to grow up and be something normal, or do you want to be a rock star sort of thing?
Hmm.
Because that's a possibility, right? And obviously not everyone makes it, but still it's a great thing to reach for, and a lot of kids want to do it, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you worked with Adam Zindani from Stereophonics. Yeah, can you talk about how you helped him?
Yeah, so at the time, so I mentioned this guy Ray Loverock, who I was in a band with in the 90s, and he was also in a band with Adam. And then Adam formed this other band called Casino, from Birmingham, and I was doing some like guitar tech work with him and stuff like that. And then so he would come to me if he had like any problems with the technique, because I was kind of like considered the guy to go to around those parts for just showing up issues with technique and whatnot. So certainly on a number of occasions, because as I was like spending a lot of time with him, he would just ask me to clarify certain things, or just help him in certain areas where he felt he was just struggling a little bit. And that's basically what I do now. Do you know what I mean? So obviously it's putting all the pieces of the puzzle together with the guitar. There's obviously certain things. There's a lot of information out there, and
Hmm.
it's not all good information. But myself, I sort of like, I guess I pride myself on being someone who has gone through that learning process, and I think I've like sorted the wheat from the chaff, and I know what works and what doesn't. A guy just signed up the other day for the Speed Mechanics coaching program, and had his Jacob, and he had his first session last night, and he's saying about how, well, as soon as he started playing this one notorious exercise 25, the picking exercise from Speed Mechanics, to the metronome, I could hear straight away that his timing was a little off.
Right.
And so, I'm telling him, okay, so, and he confessed, yeah, this is an area. He said, I'll go and try and play in the band, and I feel like the odd one out because like I'm the one that's kind of like letting it down. I'm saying, okay, no, that's cool. You've identified your weakness. Maybe you should try this, and this. And there's like these 4 or 5 exercises that I gave him that will really sort of like turn those things around from him in a month or two if he applies himself with
Hmm.
them. Yeah, even just like one of the ones is just something basic like, can you actually put a metronome on and sort of clap along in
Hmm.
time to the metronome.
Yep.
That was something that I learned early on, and I found like that was really, really fundamental, and it really sort of helped me to develop that relationship that you need as a musician to the meter, to the pulse, what's called the meter or the pulse. Every song has got that constant sort of, you know,
Hmm.
the thing that you might tap your foot to. So tapping your foot's one thing, but can you tap your foot and also play the riff at the same
Hmm.
time? You've got to try and learn to do that. So it's all about that sort of thing. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but hopefully.
No, no, that's cool. That's cool. I mean, it's that attention to detail, isn't it? So, you know,
Yeah.
Mark Tremonti has said that his favorite practice technique method is one from the Speed Mechanics.
Ah.
It is, you know, structure and things like that. That's an important part of development, you would say.
Sure, well, I've said this many times, but I really don't know what Troy was smoking when he wrote that book, but he was definitely on the planet of guitar, you know, wisdom, so to speak. And there's some amazing structure in there. And that's why it was only like about 18 months ago, I got inspired by a guy on YouTube, an English entrepreneur, William Brown, who'd made a lot of money, you know, selling coaching programs and this. And I was thinking, hey, maybe I could package it up because I've been doing like lessons online, just
Hmm.
generic, regular, you know, an hour a week lesson sort of thing. I thought I could do a coaching program and what would I do it on? And then suddenly that book, Speed Mechanics, somehow just resurfaced on my radar. And I was like, shit, I remember that book.
Hmm.
I bought it like about 2 years into my development, and I remember
Hmm.
really just my progress sort of like skyrocketing after sort of studying it for a year or two. And then what I tried to do now is encapsulate that into a couple of months for anyone that signs up to the coaching program to have that experience. You know, just down to how do you hold the pick and what pick are you using, for instance, can be a vital piece of information. You know, are you getting all those fingers, you know, sort of set up right, maybe playing, and Troy mentions this in the intro about like, you know, try to play each note right behind the fret and stuff like that. Because if you're talking speed and precision, and if you can get into those habits, and I set you up, I set the students up with like a practice routine that makes that become like a second nature, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, Troy really, you know, he really embraced the online teaching method right from the early days. Yeah, can you explain kind of the overall concept between speed mechanics?
The concept of speed mechanics,
Yeah.
the book itself, and that. Well, but first of all, he separates the hands out. You know, it starts off with some exercises for the left hand, dexterity exercises, but then, you know, after a while, it'll go into right hand exercises. There's a few like, you know, sort of pieces in there. Like the most infamous one is a Flight of the Bumblebee.
Mhm.
So there's pieces in there to learn as well, which will test your, you know, the metal, so to speak, on your progress. But there's even like ear training in there.
Mhm.
You know, ear training is very important to your development. So you want to get to that point where you can just hear a song and necessarily know how it goes before you even pick up the guitar. You can get to that point pretty much with the ear training on this coaching program. And there's much more than that, but it's just encapsulated. So speed mechanics, obviously, you look at that and you think it's all about playing as fast as you can, but it's not.
Mhm.
It's more nuanced than
Mhm.
that, sure. But I think I think Troy's on record as saying is that he was going to be called something different, but then the publisher, which is Hal Leonard, is a pretty big
Yep.
publisher in the United States, recommended to call it Speed Mechanics because I think at the time, late 80s, early 90s, when it came out, a lot of guitarists were looking for that speed.
Mhm.
But of course, there's definitely elements of speed in there and getting to that sort of like level of your guitar playing where you can do those fast runs. It's broken down into smaller sections. There's a section on picking where it talks about inside versus outside picking, which is a
Okay.
very important distinction to make.
Mhm.
If you want to, you're picking, I remember seeing that and I was like, wow, I've never made that, you know, never added it up like that before. And so the outside picking felt kind of natural to me. But when I tried to do the inside picking, it was, oh, this feels a bit weird, kind of feels awkward. So then you go, like Troy says in the book, you know, that's okay. So that's the one that you want to, out of the exercises,
Mhm.
the ones that are a bit more inside picking feel, those are the ones you want to spend more time doing because that's your weakness, right? So it's
Yep.
again, it's about identifying those weaknesses and jumping over the hurdle.
Cool. Yeah, that's really interesting, actually. I mean, Troy's book, Roadmap to Mastery, is number one on the Amazon book chart. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a really established style of teaching. What level of skill do you need to make the most out of speed mechanics?
Well, I mean, you can be a beginner, you can be intermediate. Obviously, if you're already at the point where you feel quite happy with your playing, there's probably still, and there have been people that have come on and still discovered many things, even though, because we don't, as musicians, as guitarists, we don't know it all. And if we think we know it
Hmm.
all, that's when you're
Bullshit. Yeah.
probably, yeah, you're doing yourself a disservice. So
Hmm.
I think there's even advanced guitarists can learn something from it. Not only just the speed mechanics, but I bring it into it my sort of melting pot of wisdom guitar nugget wisdom that I've learned over the past 30 years. So it's not like if people get the book, they can obviously make their own way through it, but are you going to get that little sort of like tidbit of information that sort of like just makes it so much more accessible for you? Yeah. So I think you can come in at any level, and roadmap to mastery. Yeah, it's amazing news that it's just gone to number one on Amazon in its category. And I haven't actually gotten hold of a copy yet because it's only just came out. And I've sort of emailed Troy the other day to sort of say, hey, can I get a copy? Because I'm going to obviously help you promote it because it's all good for the music academy, and I want to look at it and check it out. But it's supposed to be that's supposed to be aimed at intermediate guitarists. Hey,
Okay.
if you've hit a plateau, these are the things you need to do to rise above that. So that's the interesting thing about that. There is a free for anyone that's listening. There is a free sort of like a chapter. I think it's chapter number 4 that he put out as a free download on tsmusicacademy.com. So you can go and check it out. And of course, again, like when you read Troy's stuff, it's just really sort of compelling. It's again, he's just got that. I mean, I wish I could do what he does and write something. I don't know if I could do that. I think that's his one of his, and he sold over 1 million books worldwide.
Mm.
100,000 of those were speed mechanics, over 50 publications. It's just that's what he's. Some people are just like natural at that. I don't think I am like, and so I look at his words and I just go, wow, that's just really eloquently put together, and it really makes sense to you on a visceral level. Like, this is what you got to do, and this is how you got to do it, so to speak, from a guitar sort of like
Yeah.
practice
No,
standpoint.
that's really interesting, actually. I mean, with like the Mark Tremonti idea, yeah, we can see how this has helped kind of establish guitarists, yeah, kind of improve their technique, yeah. But with this, yeah, with the roadmap to mastery, we're talking about, if someone's mastered the basics of maybe chords and riffing, yeah, but is having difficulties
Mm-hmm.
soloing, that's an area that where it could really help them.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But not just soloing, but again, I don't know for sure what the roadmap to mastery, but he would delve into all of the key areas I would suspect, which, I mean, there's 4 or 5 that I always say, like, rhythm, theory, technique, improvisation, and ear training. Those are
Hmm.
the sort of 5 main ones. There might be a couple of others, but those are really the main ones. Um, can you establish rhythm? Like, can you read rhythm? Because if you can read rhythm, you don't need to, as a guitarist, you don't need to read music because we got tablets,
Hmm.
right? But if you can read rhythm,
Hmm.
that's going to bolster your understanding of rhythm, and because you make almost can make like rhythm figures, pictures in your mind as you're playing something, and you can play something a bit differently just because you know how to read rhythm. It's quite inspiring. So I definitely sort of like encourage all of my students to at least know how to read rhythm.
Hmm. Yeah, rhythm's really interesting. So I play a little bit of bass, yeah, not to any level, yeah. But when we did a gig recently, yeah, no rehearsal, yeah, well, we'd never rehearsed with that particular lineup, But yeah, I'm playing bass, yeah, and I don't actually play bass, yeah. I'm actually watching what my fingers are doing. It's almost like an out of body experience, yeah. So if you get ridden, but I mean the internet's been a godsend. I mean in my day that was nothing. Yeah, I remember trying to work out some of the bits and pieces on Iron Maiden's Number of the Beast. Yeah, in the bedroom. Yeah, with an acoustic guitar that you're struggling to get in tune to the record. I did manage to kind of work out some really poor technique of soloing, yeah, but and I could always go kind of down the scale, yeah, reasonably well, but I could never go up the scale. Something like this would have been an absolute godsend for me at the time.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, yeah. And a lot of those issues can you think it's to do with your fret hand, but it's probably to
Hmm.
do with your pick hand.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, Troy would say that. Yeah, so and that's why there is that section on picking, and that section. I think it's exercises 51 to 55 are some of the main ones where you're doing that thing where you're picking on adjacent strings, but you're using a combination of inside and outside picking. But yeah, going like so that again, like that would be a thing for you. Like if you were with me having lessons at the time, then we'd be like, right. So you can't go from like the low end to the high end as readily. So we're gonna jump all over that and figure out why. What are the blocks there? What do we need to remove in order for you to do that? And just having someone like that to bounce off is
Yep.
obviously if you're on your own trying to do it. I mean, I don't know. You could type in something on YouTube. You never know what you're going to get. So yeah,
Yeah, cool.
but
I mean,
it's
if someone was wary of one-to-one online coaching, yeah, and think maybe it's better in person, what would you say to them?
um, obviously there are pros and cons for both. And I did sort of like before I even started teaching online, like 6 years ago or so. I was like, how would it work? Is it going to be okay? But then you just realize that like perhaps one of the only things you can't do is like grab somebody's fingers and go, right, you
Right.
put it there. I think you say to them, no. So you put your second finger, on the second fret of the low E string, and that's the note F sharp. So they start rather than if you just grab a finger and you just plunk it there, they're not learning
Yep.
all the other stuff that they need to learn. So it is different, but of course, I've got a myriad of books that I include in obviously Speed Mechanics and quite a few Troy's books. So I'll do the screen share and I'll just take them through some of those amazing works. That's just one aspect of it. Yeah, and you can obviously I can see on the screen what they're doing. I can hear them. So that's exactly the same as if we was in the same room with them.
Yep.
So I can really, and I've got really good at just looking at that and being able to see like minute details in someone's technique and see what they're perhaps doing wrong, and also congratulate them on what they're doing right.
Oh, cool, cool, cool. I mean, your one-to-one training is not it's not just about technique, yeah. You've spoken about helping musicians escape the 9 to 5, yeah. So it's kind of there's a lot of stuff is up here as well, yeah. You need a certain attitude to succeed.
Yeah, well, I mean that's sort of what I started doing. About 5 years ago, I left England, and so the headspace was like, hey, if you've got a skill like playing guitar and maybe singing as well, like that's what I do now as well. You can, you can quit your 9 to 5 and you can travel the world. Obviously, you need maybe some don't just do it on a whim, and that's what I try to help people with as well. It's like, hey, I've gone through this process whereby I can help people to do that kind of thing, and it's just like digital nomad life, right? If
Hmm.
you can work from a laptop and also obviously doing something you enjoy, I wouldn't want to work from a laptop, doing sort of like I don't know logistics or just some kind of like even teaching English, right? A lot of people over here teach English, and I actually passed my what's called a TESOL, which is the English teaching qualification that
Hmm.
you do online for 120 hours and you get a certificate. And I passed it, and then I was like, this was in 2020, when COVID hit, and I was like, I don't want to go home, so I've got to try and figure something out because it wasn't sort of set up online as much then for teaching guitar. And I passed it, and I was like, I passed it, but I don't really want to teach English, but obviously, I've been teaching guitar for all these years,
Hmm.
and and helping people, like say, like Adams in Darling and stuff like that. So there's obviously a market there, and when there's like, was it 7, 8 billion people in the world, and you just got to reach like a
Yep.
minuscule proportion of those to help them. You're just like. and you can be like, in warm place rather than a cold place. And, obviously England's not the best place right now. I had to come back for a few months last year and just saw the state of the country. Like, yeah, I definitely don't want to live in England now.
Yeah.
So it was great to get back out. And yeah, so all of those things really. I think anyone can do what I'm doing. Uh, of course, I have the great sort of like what's the word? I have that connection with Dinah, which is great for me because
Hmm.
I've got like footage of me playing, Sweden Rock Festival and Wacken on YouTube and stuff like that. So I can do an organic thing on, maybe Facebook or YouTube where I put stuff out and just say, hey, I'm out here and I'm teaching, and now I'm part of the tsmusicacademy.com, the Troy Stetina Music Academy. That like, I can help you, and just because it's not in person doesn't make it any less. It's just the fact that I can reach someone in
Yep.
America, whereas I wouldn't be able to do that, would I? Do
Yep.
you know what I mean? Unless I flew over there. I think the online thing is really good in that respect because you can just reach people and help people. I've had people from like China, Australia, Canada, America, England, obviously. Those are the main places we get people coming from so far. And yeah, long may it continue. The Troy Stetina Music Academy, I just got an email off Troy this morning. Things seem to be really going from strength to strength there because we just want to reach out and help as many guitarists as possible. Um, and I really think that Troy he's the best out there at what he does.
Yeah. No, it's a really interesting program. The research I was doing, yeah, and Jesus, I wish there was something similar to that when I was when I was in my teens. What's the best way to get in touch with you, Rob?
Well, uh, yeah, I mean, I got my email. So if you went to Rob Muse. I used to be a big Muse. Well, I'm still a big Muse fan, but I don't really like their latest stuff. I prefer their early stuff. So Rob Muse. So ROBMUSE 75 year of birth at gmail.com. Rob Muse 75 at gmail.com. That's my email. That's probably the best way. I mean, I've got so obviously tsmusicacademy.com. There's three of my offerings on there. The Speed Mechanics coaching program. Just put up something called a Pretender to Pro, which is a 6 month coaching program
Okay.
where we just have a lesson a week and we really build it towards that goal of becoming the best musician you can be. But it's over, the Speed Mechanics is like 2 months.
Mhm.
Pretender to Pro is 6 months. So it's an investment in yourself as a guitarist. And can you get to that level that you always dreamed and aspired to be at the end of 6 months? And I think you can with this coaching program. And then there's the fretboard fire starter bonus practice. That's just a series of videos. That's only like $9.99 US a month to get the subscription there and just get these videos coming through one a week where I show you just some interesting exercises you can do, like perhaps while watching the TV or a film, so you can get some extra practice in. It's just this little concept that I came up with. And the first three video exercises on there are actually free just to view. And that's tsmusicacademy.com. My own website, rockstarguitarschool.co.uk. So yeah, that's
Cool. Yeah,
all
great.
my things really there.
Great. We'll share all of those. Anything you miss about England? Yeah, what are you having for dinner tonight? You miss fish and chips?
Obviously, yeah, I mean, certain things, like even like beans on toast, which you can get over here, but you do, yeah, little things, but not that much really. I mean, definitely you can get most things over here now. There's definitely it's really cheap to eat out as well. In most places you can get some of the places like you can get like a meal for like 2 3 quid or whatever. Maybe even less than that in some places.
Cool.
Uh, yeah, it's just a really cool place, vibrant, very busy. In terms of traffic and that. But I'm a little bit out of the sort of city centre, so it's not too crazy yet. But yeah, Saigon is definitely an experience, and yeah, Dave Ronnie is coming down as well in a couple of days' time, I think.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Well, I appreciate your time, Rob. It's a really exciting program, and it should be of massive interest to a lot of the youngsters that are still coming through listening to metal these days. We wish you all the best, and thank you very much for your time. Cheers.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Thanks a lot. Take care. Thanks, guys.